So hi guys and welcome. Thank you guys for joining us today. And thank you, Dafna, for joining us. We started a series where I am doing a one-on-one meeting with someone from the industry who can give you guys a lot of added value and practical insights so that it helps our founders with their companies and to grow in the best possible way. So thanks for joining, Dafna. I think we're going to speak today about one of the biggest challenges that founders have and that they face today. And it's generating real business opportunities. Okay. It's getting meetings with the right decision makers, building that correct pipeline that actually can convert, and not just a huge pipeline with 1,000,001 people, which most of them are not relevant. I want to discuss today how it works, what's changed in the market, and how startups can actually reach their business development goals in the upcoming year. We're on the 31st of December, so I think it's super important that we talk about it for 2026. So thank you for joining me. I'll give you guys a quick half a minute about Dafna, and then she will introduce herself better. So Dafna, you are the CEO and founder of Dafna Rolls Associates. How many years ago did you start it?
18 years. I keep saying 17, but 18 years ago in
Wow.
Boston. Yes.
Amazing. So you started it in Boston and you've worked with loads and loads of businesses from different sizes and different industries, hundreds of companies across different sectors, from early stage startups, which is what we invest in, to well-established organizations. So I think you will definitely be able to give us a lot of practical insights today. So can you give me a 1 minute, this is me, so that our founders can get to know who you are?
So Dafna Rolls, owner and founder of Dafna Rolls Associates, a mother for 3 kids. Thank God one of them is a soldier that finished his service, thank God. And our offices are in Ranana. And I established the company when I lived in Boston. It started as a small business development firm, and we have decided to focus on the niche of helping companies get strategic meetings with investors, with their target market. And I've done it for many years, and we love it because each client is completely a different story, a different industry, and we like the journey.
Amazing. So what I think me and Dafna built today is we're going to divide it into 3 segments, and with each segment, we're going to ask different questions and answers so that you can learn as much as possible. So the first segment is, okay, and I think everyone on top of everyone's mind, as how do I get meetings with the right decision makers? And I say right decision makers because I think one of the major problems today, and this is something I've also learned with people that I speak to, is you don't want to waste time on meeting. Now, you should take as many meetings. I'm not saying not, but you want to make sure that you're taking it with the right person and not someone who's not relevant or who's going to waste your time. Founders, we know how busy you are in the beginning of your journey and how complicated it is to build a company, and we want to make sure that your time is super valued. So you want to make sure to get the meetings with the right decision makers. So I'm going to ask you the first question is, why is it so hard for startups to reach senior decision makers and potential investors?
For startups, in order to get the meetings with the right decision maker, with the right person that they want to speak with, is extremely important that they will believe that they can do it. I know it sounds a little bit, but first of all, believe that this person would like to speak with you. If you have the good product, even if you're looking for investment, sometimes you think, I'm not sure if they would like to hear me. They want to hear different solutions. They want to learn about new industries, and they really want to learn more about what you do. So this is the first step. The second step is to understand that in order to get the right meeting, you really need to identify your decision makers and customize your approach to him. So to make sure that when you approach him, let's say startups want to approach investors in the European market, the first step is really to learn about them, not just to learn how you're going to present yourself, to learn about them, when you approach them to say, I saw your portfolio that you invested at XYZ and that you gave a lecture at this, when you customize your message and you do the process in a very respectable way, personalized way, they will respond. Even if, and you need to do it via approach on LinkedIn, email, cold calling, but you need to personalize your approach to them.
It's funny that you say that because we always tell, when I speak to founders and I say, it's not only fine, you also have to do your homework when it comes to investors for the right VC because it has to be a match. So you have to do your homework as well. Not just, approach any VC and say, okay, I'll take any meeting with this VC. This VC may not be relevant for you because they may not have the right connections. They may have invested not in your specific industry, and they may not be able to help you as much as another VC. So what actually works today? If it's cold outreach, partnership intros, something else, what do you suggest? Or is it a mix of things?
First of all, what works is to do the process from A to Z. To
Okay.
do the process in a very organized way, to make sure that your leads are on the CRM, that you manage the lead, that you give time, you connect with them on LinkedIn, you wait a little bit until you send an email. You don't start overwhelming them with too many approach, but at the same time, when you approach them, make sure when do you do the follow-up. You connected on LinkedIn, when do you send the email, when do you pick up the phone? And if you approach, let's say, a company that you want to work with, and you heard a no from one decision maker, it doesn't mean that the door is closed. There are other decision makers in the same company that can open the door for you. For one of our clients, a medical device company, they wanted a meeting with Boston Scientific. It took us 3 months. At the same time, we scheduled meetings with other organizations, of course, to go through different gatekeepers, different decision makers, in order to get this extremely strategic meeting for them that end up to be sales of millions of dollars because we didn't stop, we didn't give up. So the idea is to do it from A to Z, to do the process when you do it, and I would like to emphasize how all the way, and not to say, oh, I have an evening free, I will send some request on LinkedIn. It's better not to do it than to do it halfway.
Okay. Interesting. No, I was just speaking to one of our founders, and he was saying that he approached one of the companies that they're going to do a POC with, but it was funny because the first person he met with said it wasn't relevant, and then through another connection, someone else in the company who was in a different department said it was relevant for them. So you're right. I think it one door closes in a company doesn't mean it's closed for good. Another door can open, and I do agree on persistence. And it done in an organized way. I 100% agree. Is this something that companies can do on their own? Do they need to do this with, is it like, do they need outside support? What do you suggest?
It's a big question, and I will approach the question from different angles. First of all, if you can hire the professionals to do it, perfect. But very often young startups need to get the first few meetings by themselves. And I have to say, I gave this lecture throughout the years many times, and I love when after the lecture, someone writes to me, I have done it, I was able to secure a meeting. Sometimes to bring few strategic meetings for young startups, it will bring them the next round of investment, because investors see that they know to do the BD and know how to do the process, and that there is an interest. So yes, startups can do it by themselves, but as I mentioned, you need to be dedicated to the process. You need to make sure that you close time on your calendar for BD activity, that you know exactly ahead of time what is the process that you are doing. The first thing to start with is the right research, the right database to make sure that you're approaching the right decision makers. One of the startups that we have worked with wanted to approach enterprise in the US. Amazing. We got them the meetings, and those big enterprises really want to hear about their solutions. But those big enterprises will not start working with a startup that is still in a design part or not finalized yet. They spent 6 months of not approaching the right target market because from the beginning we told them maybe young companies will be your design partners, but huge organizations don't have the time for it. You really need to analyze who are your decision makers. A startup that approached universities thought that the IT person are their decision makers. It wasn't, it was the marketing department. So sometimes if you're not sure, approach both and check who is responding, what is the right part of this process is your market research. You learn how your market react, what do people ask. Sometimes they will mention competition that you don't think about them as competition, but the market see them as your competition. And then you need to go back to your marketing, to your messaging, and update it. So the answer is yes, it can be done. Be dedicated to this, do it in the right process, and again, manage it all on a CRM and measure the process.
So I think that also answers the last question, unless you want to add something of what are the founders' biggest mistakes when it comes to outreach. And I think it's not A, doing the correct process, B, approaching the wrong people, and C, thinking the door is closed and sometimes it's still open. Is there anything else that you think there's a big mistake which founders make in the beginning of their journey?
Yes, it's something that I always emphasize. I like when companies do their first sales process by themselves. Very often Israeli startups will hire VP of sales in the US before they even have the structure to get him in. Sometimes they will hire him before they have the right marketing collateral. So this person arrived, there is no structure that he is getting into, and is very expensive, and the pressure starts. And I always say, start the process, make sure that you have enough, that you created and conduct the research, that there is enough leads there. And don't get so excited about when you interview someone and he promised to open the US market or the European market for you. There is a saying, an American salesperson, the best sale they will do is in the interview. It's not true. There are very good ones out there, but be careful. Be careful. Learn the process yourself so you can, when you bring the right person in, he will be successful and you are not leading him for a failure.
We've seen this again and again with many companies throughout the years, so I actually 100% agree with you. I think that summarizes the first section, and I think sometimes it's always best. I mean, especially in the world today, everyone's trying, as they say in Hebrew, "Lamtit hagalgalt," try something that's never worked. And sometimes I think the simplest and best process, even if it's, I would say, old school, just works. And because you have the relationship touch, and the fact that you keep going again and again after the person, but not in a stalkerish manner. And sometimes the most simple things work the best. And I totally agree with that. Again, I think there are different ways you can write the content to approach them or send them things which can, be interesting enough for them to say, okay, I want to see this. But again, I think the process itself is old school method, in my opinion, and sometimes it works the best. I want to move to the second.
I'm always amazed, Yael, but how much your knowledge about what startups needs, and I completely agree with this. And today people are looking for the quick solutions. There is an old school way to do sales We have the technology to support it. We have
Exactly.
the
Yeah, the new
AI. We have
technology to
many,
support it, which can help. I agree.
definitely. But there is a process to be done, and it needs to be done in the right way and no shortcuts.
I agree. I think for founders today, the only thing, not the only, I think for founders today, and I can see it in my work as well, is things happen much quicker and I can get things done much quicker and in a better manner because of AI tools. But the process itself of approaching people, that still has that personal relationship side that AI can't take from you. So I agree. So let's move on to the second segment now, which is we all love this conferences and trade shows, and how to prepare them the right way. I would say not the right way, but the smart way. Um, so there are so many conferences today, and companies in the beginning of their, their journey don't have the budget to do huge booths and things like that, and speaking opportunities and things like that. So how should companies choose which conferences to attend? And then we'll go into what they should do before and during and after.
Wow, conferences is a lecture that I give for an hour and a half usually, but I will do it TED style. So let's start. First of all, sometimes companies looking for the big name conferences. Right now there is the CES in Vegas. Everyone is going to. It's a huge conference. Not necessarily that it's the right conference for young startups. It needs to be checked. Sometimes the small conferences, the more boutique ones, you will get better results at. Not in every conference you have to take a booth. It's something for you to know. Maybe in the first time, even if you're going to the big conferences, you want to walk the floor. You don't want to take a booth. You want to walk the floor, to be available to meet people, and to learn how the conference works, and perhaps in the second year to take a booth in the conference. When you choose a conference to go to, ask your associates, ask the people in the industry how it works, really learn what worked, what didn't, what to emphasize, and then make a decision about the conference. With most of our clients right now, it was a month ago, we create the conference plan that they're going to, and we start creating the plan how we support them before, during, and after. So what do we do before? First of all, we make sure that we have all of the marketing collateral ready for the conference. A banner at the end of your email, please meet us at booth number if you have a booth. Check the different groups on LinkedIn and social media of the conference, connect with them, approach people via those groups and see if you can connect with people there. And the most important thing that, Yael, you will be shocked that I will say, I have clients that register for a conference doing it all, and then I ask them, have you registered to the conference network platform? And they say, oh, no, there is one. So definitely for most of the conferences today, there is a network platform which you should work on. You will be surprised that not all the people will respond there. So don't use only that. Do the cold calling, LinkedIn and email to the one that you weren't able to reach. But the idea is to go to the conference with a calendar full of meetings. When you're in the conference and your 10 o'clock meeting didn't show up, make sure that you have a back office support that will approach them and will reschedule the meeting for you. If you're going to a conference and there are strategic, let's say, wish list companies, people that you want to meet with, schedule ahead of time a nice restaurant in the evening for dinner. So you know that those people, if we are able to reach them, you invite them for dinner or for a good breakfast before, depend if they have it or not. So it's very hard, it's funny, but it's very hard to get a reservation later on. Few of our clients will take a suite in the hotel of the conference. for presentation. Sometimes it is cheaper than a huge booth, something to consider, to do a cocktail in the evening there, something like that. And the most important part is after the conference, many of our clients, we will start working with them, and I'm sitting with them to learn what they have done. Yes, we've been in Drupa 6 months ago. How was it for you? Oh, we have all of those leads from the conference that we didn't follow up on them. So everything need to be uploaded on HubSpot with all of the personal notes. The guy said that he's going on a ski vacation, to call him in a month from now. All of the notes, maximize every lead potential and do a follow-up. And my last tip, I know I took it a little bit longer than expected, Yael, on the conferences. The one that you weren't able to reach for the conference, approach them and say, I was so hoping to meet with you at the conference. We didn't end up meeting. Can we schedule a Zoom meeting instead? And in the last 2 years in Israel, many of my clients that were supposed to go to the conference, and it was also through COVID, and all of a sudden you cannot go to a conference. You're planned to, but you're not going from different reasons. Please make sure that you do the follow-up, and you can approach people and say, I was supposed to be in the conference. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend. Let's meet. And you will be surprised from what you will get.
I agree 100%. We've done conferences before, and I did a lot of conferences in the past. There are creative ways today to get people. I know the market is, saturated, and there are there's a lot of competition, especially when you go to conferences. But I think sometimes it's the small gestures which will get people to meet you. And again, I will bring the fact that there are plenty of AI tools to help you build conferences today. If it's meetings, if it's networking, if it's, follow-ups with potential leads and personalizing whatever you're giving to them, use those AI tools today. And they're so simple and easy. I think it's once you get that hook with that person, it's just making sure, even if the meeting didn't go well, or if it didn't happen, or even if it happened and it takes time to follow up, it's just keeping them engaged all the time in a very subtle but creative way, I would say. I think it depends again on, and I'm going to say this from a personal part, it depends on your ICP. If it's someone I know it sounds bad, if it's from the older generation or someone from the newer generation, and to approach them in different marketing methods and different sales methods based on who they are, to keep them engaged at all times. Again, I'm going back. The method of working on conferences is the same. Guys, it hasn't changed for years. I know I speak of founders thing now, like, give us something amazing. I was like, guys, there's nothing, you don't need to, redo everything. It's the same old method. You just need to do it I would say, more organized way, and use tools today which can help you get to the right people and keep them engaged and get in follow-up meetings, and hopefully, convert them into to customers. But again, the process is the same. I use the networking apps all the time. I have to say that when I go to conferences, I don't even go into the sessions. I have meetings back to back. And you're right. Through the networking app, you can actually see exactly who's coming, and you can filter today with different AI tools of who's more relevant for your company and approach them directly if they don't get back to you. It's worked for me at all times. And there are so many ways to get to these people today, even if they're LinkedIn, you can't message them or things like that. So that, I think, it's a plus. Well, we didn't have that a few good years ago when we couldn't reach them. So.
Completely.
So let's move on to the third section, and it's setting business development goals for 2026, and how young companies should think about planning and prioritizing. And when should a startup even start thinking about business development goals? How should they measure and track it, which is super, super important? And if there are any protocols and processes needed to measure these goals, so that we can give them practical tips.
I think for young startup, it is much harder to put goals than to establish companies. When we work with a company that has been established and worked for years, they know what to expect. They know how many leads will turn into SQLs and how many SQLs are needed for a sale and what is the sales process. The idea with a startup is that you learn everything and everything is new. And this is why everything needs to be measured in a very detailed way. So it's very important to have a BD weekly meeting when you analyze and you check the results of if you did an email campaign, if you did a sale. The idea is for startups, when you do the work, is to make sure that when you start your BD, and right now when we are starting 2026 and we want to put the goals, first of all, know that they can change and put your goals quarter by quarter. What is your Q1 goals? What is your Q2 goals? And then when you approach your target market, maybe you want to approach big size companies, medium size, small size companies, because if you want to see sales coming in, definitely with small size companies, the process is you will see it coming in a quicker way. So we want to make sure that we put reasonable goals and that we are checking them and that we are comfortable knowing that we needed to adjust them, that every time we stop and we adjust them according to what we have learned in the process of what we are doing. I myself, my approach is to put a higher goals and to aim to reach them. You need to push to reach them, and it's very important, even if you are only a few people company, that everyone will be engaged in the process, that you present it to the team, that you speak about it with the team, even if they R&D, because it makes you present it, and of course you have your board to represent it too. Again, I know I spoke about it, but for most companies, I don't see it happening. CRM. The CRM should create the reports for you. You don't need the expensive one today. From a basic package of, I don't want to say names because I'm not promoting any CRMs today, but there are a few that everyone is using and they're all quite the same. Make sure that it speaks and it shows you the results. What is your sales circle? How many leads you have in the pipeline? What is the expectation of you to meet in March 2026? And you will be there.
Sounds good. I think building goals is the right way to do it. If I want to wrap up a few things, a few practical insights to kick off 2026, I think we discussed the following. So, and tell me if we're missing anything. So one, it's create your wish list of clients and meetings that you want to meet. But again, make it in a very insightful way that you know if you have huge organizations, you know it's going to take a few good months and we can now focus on the smaller ones. Again, time management, tell me if I'm wrong, I think is super important here. Like you said, set a weekly internal business development meeting to track process and the progress, which I think is important. Use a CRM consistently. And again, there's so many tools today. If you even build your own tool today in Base 44, it's just super easy. Map, this is very important, and it's map the relevant events and conferences in your industry. As a fund, we get lists and lists of different conferences in the industry. I agree with you that you need to, and this is something I speak about a lot with our marketing teams in companies. Even if you do go to the big conferences, it's great. The huge conferences, no, it may be much harder to get meetings there if you're a young startup, and try and focus on meetings in smaller conferences, which will bring you much more valuable leads. It's also money. It's also a matter of time and money. So you may want to put more money in the smaller conferences where you know that's where your ICP is, and not necessarily in the mass conferences where it may be good to go and feel the market and see what's going on and see the competition and see what everyone's talking about, but don't necessarily go with like the highest hopes that they're going to get all the meetings, because you are competing with a million other people who want to get the same one person. So that's super important. And I think the last one, and from taking everything, is really personalizing every outreach, which is so much easier today than it was once, and that's amazing. And you should definitely use it. No generic messages, everyone and their personalized message, based on who they are, their background, their social media, what they buy, what they like. Um, just much easier today. And you know what? I'm a
I
little bit
agree.
jealous of the founders today because um they have all these cool tools and they have all these things which they can use. Again, I think time will tell and we'll see what's going to happen in the next few years. Maybe, we'll look back and say, okay, they had all these cool things, but it didn't help them get the leads. But looking today, I think there are just so many interesting, creative ways you can personalize outreach, which gets the work done. Which I remember we used to sit and rewrite the messages each time based on each customer. And it used to take hours and hours. Am I missing anything from what we spoke about?
Just one thing is we spoke about bringing the opportunities, and one last thing is the follow-up. When you are already on a Zoom call with your decision maker, before you get on a Zoom call, say, let's pencil down our next meeting so you don't need to start, because I see many companies, it's very hard from them to go from the introduction meetings really into the sales process. So pencil the next meeting ahead of time. Make sure that you learn about the person and you ask him some personalized question, that when you send the follow-up email, you say, I hope you really enjoy your Christmas vacation in the, I don't know where, in upstate New York. So we see that you listen to him, and those small things makes a difference. And I think I'm starting 2026 with a strong and good plan will do the work.
I like it. Again, personalization, guys. Relationships, it's all about building relationships, especially for founders, especially for startups in the beginning of their journey, when they don't have sales team, and they need to get those few customers on board. I agree with you 100%. I like the fact that we keep it simple and it's not simple. It's a very hard process, guys. And you all know it, but I think we don't need to, recreate this whole thing. Sometimes we need to go back to the basics and the basics work. So thank you very much. It was super insightful. I hope that this is a great way for founders to start 2026, to build a structured plan for biz dev, and to achieve it. And I think one more thing as someone from a VC, and I think this is super important, when you say build a structured plan, it's super critical because sometimes I have founders and I say, okay, so who can we help you reach to, And then they send us a list of like 70 names. Like, okay, can you prioritize these names? Can you prioritize these companies? Like, no, we need contact with everyone. No, it doesn't work like that. And I'm not gonna, reach 70 companies now and say, okay, and can you handle 70 companies now? So really prioritize it in the way that you can build a company to move forward, to grow in a structured way, that will bring results. At the end of the day, you want to close these clients. You want them to be your client. You want them to use your product. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I just wish everyone a great 2026.
Thank you. And if anyone has questions, feel free to approach. And Yael, I wish more VCs would support their clients in what you're doing. So it's great to see the activity as always. And I hope 2026 will be a successful and peaceful year for us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.